a sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me.
Hi, everyone. My guest today is Teri Westerby. He's been on the show before, I think maybe twice. I can't remember. I forget things. But anyway, the reason why he's here today is to clarify something. That's a lot of misinformation gets spread, So, Teri, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For sure. So, talk to the audience. Tell them what it is you're going to be clarifying.
Yeah, I just was really happy to have this opportunity to, just address some of the things that have been circulating about, SOGI 123 and what it looks like in the school district and what our role is as a school board and what the responsibilities are of the public. And ideally, my hope here is to, answer some questions and build some trust and get a sense of transparency towards some of the things that people might not understand or might have questions about that just aren't really getting addressed.
Yeah. So first of all, what does SOGI stand for?
It's a great question. SOGI it's SOGI, and it's an acronym. It stands for Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity. And it's phrased that way because every person has a sexual orientation and gender identity that's just a part of who we are, like an age, race, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation. There's different things that make up who we are. Mm-hmm. And so the idea is to help create classrooms that are open and inclusive of everybody, regardless of whatever their sexual orientation and gender identity is. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the basis of that. And it's from the ARC Foundation, which stands for Accept, Respect, and I should have looked that up exactly. But yeah, and caring and compassion. So the whole idea is to create more safe and compassionate schools.
Right. Now I know there is a group. Well, I like to refer to them as a gang. That they're saying that children, they're protesting because they say that children are being indoctrinated sexually in the schools. Right?
That's what some people are saying. That's what some of the misinformation is about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you clear that up for those people who still think or believe that?
Well, that's a big one because it kind of stems from the concept that people who might deviate from heteronormativity, which is being heterosexual or cisgender and, man, woman, that type of relationship where it's heteronormative. Any deviancy from that is considered some sort of sexual deviancy, and it's wrong or othered or bad and looked at as a lens of being hypersexual. And I think that might come from the fact that LGBTQ freedoms were fought through the lens of sexual liberty, which was fought through with a combination of queer people and straight people who were tired of being forced to live a certain way.
Right. Yeah.
And so that could be where the confusion comes from, because freedom for all to not have to marry, to have families how they choose, to have relationships as they choose, and to not have the government in their bedroom and not have laws to regulate what their bedroom looks like. Those were all fought hand in hand. And so those freedoms and liberties were provided to all of us, including LGBTQ people. Mm-hmm. And so I think that maybe where some of the confusion lies, mm-hmm. But ultimately being gay or trans or bisexual or any of those things isn't a deviancy. It's normal. It's just a normal part of our sexual identity and orientation and who we're attracted to. And that's the whole phrase, love is love, right? Love is love. And we should just let people love who they want to love. And as long as it's consenting and mutual and beautiful, then, does it matter?
Yeah, it does. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Now, somebody was telling me, somebody that I know said that teachers are quitting because they don't want to be teaching certain things that apparently they're mandated to do. So have you heard anything about that?
I mean, I've heard all sorts of rumors. As far as like direct reports, I've not heard anything specifically like that.
Mhm.
Of an actual name and specific situation that said this is exactly what happened. I've never heard anything like that, just rumors. But that said, you know, there's been a lot of big changes that have come through the curriculum, not just SOGI, which reflect the human rights of people in BC, but there's been new updates for human rights. So an Indigenous identity, an Indigenous ancestry is now added to the Human Rights Code as something you can't discriminate for, and it was really specific. And there's a whole bunch of other changes as far as, you know, anti-racism and the curriculum changes in that, you know, we're trying to make a more inclusive classroom. There's also been the Accessibility BC Act, which makes classrooms more accessible. And then we're also talking about, you know, universal design for learning and making classrooms, you know, open and for everyone. So there's no person left behind, really, truly. And because of all those changes, I'm sure that there are people out there who struggle or who don't really agree or align with, you know, the changes, and they opt not to continue teaching. And people are free to do that. But as far as specific people choosing to not want to teach SOGI 1, 2, 3, I haven't heard that specifically.
Okay, because just somebody told me about that. Now you're on the Chilliwack School Board, right? You're a trustee. So what exactly is your role when it comes to the schools as a trustee?
Yeah, I think that's another question we get a lot. I think people don't necessarily like, I don't want to say they don't understand, but it's hard because you don't really get taught these things about what does a school board, what does a trustee do. So I like to look at it as like a full circle, like a closure of ensuring that the community has their voice heard in the school system, because the school system is a public institution. It's mandated and regulated through the Ministry of Education and Childcare. And so you know, you go from the ministry in Victoria down through the schools and you have employees. So somewhere in the line, it's important to have the community's voice governing the specific things of each individual community. I think the best example of what I'm trying to say is busing system. So the Ministry of BC could say, it's important every kid gets to school, but could the staff in Victoria tell Chilliwack how its bus system needs to be laid out, to ensure every child gets to school? But that's where the staff comes in. So we have to ensure that there's a voice there that's in between, that's governing the staff from what the community wants to hear. So it's really just a community lens over the direction of the school. And my favorite viewpoint, my favorite metaphor, some people like to say it's like the governors are like the train tracks of the train that's going, and the school is a train. But I like to think of it more as the schools are like a ship, like a pirate ship, if you will, like a ship with sails, and the people are ensuring the ship is running well, and the ship's, you know, everyone's living on the ship, but the governors are the sails trying to set the direction that everyone's trying to get to. So it's more of a general direction setting and policy making, kind of governance, high level things. And as governors of the public institution, it is important that we uphold the rights of every citizen, and that we ensure that the spaces that we create also uphold the right of every citizen. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the school board meetings are a town hall for everyone to just come and freely air whatever they think and feel. Those board meetings are meant to do the work that's up on the agenda, and there's so many other methods and ways in which we can communicate and engage with the public. But sometimes that's not always easy. So,
well, talking about that, like I know that the meetings have been targeted by protesters trying to disrupt meetings, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, there have been several people intending to disrupt not only the Chilliwack School Board meetings, but it's been happening in Abbotsford and Surrey, just to name a couple. And it's definitely not just a Lower Mainland issue. It's
Right, yeah,
BC and even Canada wide in a lot of places.
right.
You see it mirrored in some of the things that happen in the States as well. Because the American school boards have completely different rules than the even province by province. So what you might be able to get away with in those states, you can't necessarily do in our communities. So the attempts there are made, but the rules are different. So
Has there been a time where you or anyone on the school board tried to sit down with this group? I'm talking about a particular group that are active now in Chilliwack. So have you tried to communicate with them? Because if you're going to protest something, you should know exactly what you're protesting. You should have your facts straight, right?
yeah, I mean, there's definitely been a number of people who do come and sit at the school board meetings and try to engage. But it's disappointing to see that their engagement doesn't go further than that. Like, I don't see usually those people attempt to email or find other resolutions that are less disruptive.
Right.
And then as far as the people who come and stand outside, I don't think they've made an attempt to have communications with us, but it's hard to say because there's so many, and they all each might have different thoughts and feelings on the matter. And but could I say whether or not they've made official attempts to actually have their opinions heard in a way that is effective and not just disruptive? My feeling on the matter is no, I don't believe they have.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because there was an attempt for mission to address some of the concerns. They called it SOGI Mythbusters, and it was hosted in a public forum. I think it was like an arena of some kind, and they were able to go through the presentation, and then unfortunately it was disrupted at the end. But they had made attempts to come out and meet people and talk about things. And then it got to a point where people didn't really want to talk anymore.
Yeah, right. It's really is unfortunate because the way I see it is like, if you're worried or complain about what your children are being taught in school and you want to protest, then how does bullying and intimidating and disrupting meetings, how is that supposed to help? I mean, aren't you teaching this to your children? This is how you should deal with something. I really have an issue with that. It seems so hypocritical to me.
Yeah, I can empathize with wanting to be heard and feeling like no one is listening and no one's hearing you, and you feeling like you just keep screaming the same thing over and over and no one seems to hear you. But I feel like I would like to challenge people to try to understand other perspectives and not just force their own perspectives, and try to understand more why it is that no one's listening.
Yeah.
And if there's other avenues that you could be heard, because I'm sure what this loudness and disruptiveness does is it destroys the ability for us to actually have conversations. Because then it just becomes a shouting match and no one's listening. So it's tough, because I'm sure there might be some things in there that could be addressed, and I'm not talking necessarily about like SOGI per se, but there might be somebody with a legitimate issue that isn't being heard because there's so much noise and loudness, and we don't have a chance to talk about the subtle things and the important things. And there's so many important things that are coming through, like the anti-racism work that's coming through this year, and a lot of the new Indigenous curriculum. These are all really exciting forward steps that we're bringing into the school system. And instead of talking about those beautiful successes, we spend so much time just talking about something that's old news embedded in human rights, and it's not going to change. Even all of the latest provincial parties have come forward and said, SOGI's here to stay, and it's completely supported by absolutely every educational partner in the province, and that is never before been achieved, as far as I understand, on a resource like this. So, and just the fact that you see all of these loud noises and all these people upset about the inclusion of LGBTQ people in their identities and their families, and they make these homophobic slurs saying, learning about gay people is sexualizing my child, which is just so homophobic, because gay people exist, and that doesn't make your child suddenly think about things they wouldn't think about before. And it just shows why we need SOGI 123, and we need these things embedded in human rights, because if we didn't, then people could come in here and take away this access to equality and this work that we've been doing, and it would set us back like 100 years.
Yeah.
So
I think
it's a good thing it is.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. I think when I don't mean you personally, but when a person has a particular point of view and they want to force that down somebody else's throat, it's like so wrong on every level, you're right. And we're trying to get away from people doing that. It must be really difficult, like for you, and I know you work with a great team of people on the school board. So, but it must be difficult some days, to have to deal with some of that situation.
Yeah, it's something that I've managed to compartmentalize. I feel like the average person, it means well and they're kind, and even if they have some questions that they might not have the right words for, they're usually coming from a good place and they mean well and they just want to learn. And I do see that the thirst for learning and getting an understanding and wanting to be in the right place and be kind to everyone, that is there for the majority of the community. And I'm able to compartmentalize that away from the people who are, they're just broken, because they come and they say some of the most horrific things to me that I'm able to say, like, I'm able to say to them, like, I'm sorry you're hurting so much that you have to come to me and tell me that about myself, but it's just a reflection of themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I feel like I'm grateful that I have that ability to be resilient and recognize that it's not about me and not take it personally.
It must be easy though, like,
Yeah, I'm grateful. I'm privileged. I have so many people who love and support me and are my allies, but I recognize that mentality is everywhere, and not everyone has that. They're in that space where they don't let it get to them.
Yeah.
And it causes really horrific mental health conditions, because you feel like you don't matter. Yeah. And that everyone around you is judging you all the time, and that they would rather you not be there, and you just don't feel like you belong, and that it's hard.
It is.
And you feel very lonely.
Yeah, I think I've told you in the past that, in my family, I have somebody who's transgender, who's somebody who's gay, and I just think about, like, they're young people, they should not have to go through any of those things that from other people's opinions, or you don't believe in something or not. We're all allowed to believe or not believe in whatever it is we want to believe in, but to just put somebody or call people names or whatever because they are not heterosexual or whatever the word is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's wrong on every level. I just think about one of the terms that First Nations people have for somebody who's gay, and what do they call them? Two-spirit.
Mm-hmm. And
I think what a beautiful term. It takes away all of that sting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I think one of the things that I like that you said is, when you talk to people one-on-one and get to know them, then you have more understanding, more empathy, or,
mm-hmm.
right? If we could get more people to do that, like those, I'm talking about the people who just, want to be loud and noisy and hurtful.
Yeah. And I think that there's a big misconception on rights and what do rights look like and what do rights mean. Mm-hmm. And there's 3 different types of human rights. And there's the rights that you have as an individual against the government. So the government can't infringe on your freedom of speech. So if you went and so that's why people are allowed to have those Trudeau stickers all over their cars, because we have freedom of speech and the government can't suppress us for saying things about them. And then there's there's the rights that you have against organizations. So I have the right to go out and access the world, and organizations not be discriminated against to access the world equally in as far as organizations go. And I'm totally butchering by paraphrasing. And then the third level is statutory, where it's between two people. So I think that there's a misunderstanding in how human rights work. Mm-hmm. So people think that, freedom of religion means that they get to just that no matter what, in all circumstances, their religion and their beliefs reign over anything else. And I think I have there's a phrase that's been going around that I find is helpful. It says like your rights end where others begin. And so in my right of being free to worship how I choose butts up against your freedom to worship how you choose. So in a government space, in an employment space, the government would say, you're welcome to worship however you want. I can't stop you. And an organization or employer would say, I give you, the freedom to wear whatever religious you need to wear, whatever. If you need time off to pray, I can't discriminate against that. I can't fire you because you want to take your holidays off for your religious worship. But as an individual, you can't come in and tell me how to live my life based on your religion, right? So that's where it ends. My freedom starts where yours end.
Right. Yeah.
So the public space as well, it's not up to the public institutions to uphold your religious beliefs as well when you are in their spaces. Right. So the schools, it's not up to the schools to ensure your children are getting the religious practices upheld. So if, for example, there was a person whose religious belief said that they didn't believe in female equality, and they said they don't want to see a female teacher, their child can't have a female teacher, the school couldn't discriminate against female teachers, right? They can't do that, but they could allow the child to pick a different classroom. That's totally their freedom. So that's where we have to weave and intersect with our freedoms and our rights and ensure every single person is not discriminated against and has all their freedom.
No, that refers to the public school system, right? As opposed to a religious school.
Yeah, religious, private schools are private institutions and they have different laws. Well, not different laws, but it's just different. It applies differently.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Is there anything else that you think that needs to be clarified that there was misunderstanding about?
I just think it needs to be clear that the public school system is a community space, and it's up to us as the people who govern over the institution and the employees of the institution to ensure that every person who accesses that institution, whether there be a student, a parent, or any other caregiver or family member, or a teacher or any other staff member, if you are in and accessing that community space, you must be welcome and included there. And we have to do everything we can to try to build a sense of belonging. And that means showing that we live in a diverse world and a diverse country, and that people exist and that they're great, and that when you are whoever you are as a person, you matter, and that you can succeed. You can go on and be the best version of yourself you want to be, not what the school wants you to be, what you want to be. And in order to do that, we have to work really hard and create inclusive, accessible spaces. And it's important that everyone has their voice heard, but it's also important that we have the responsibility of hearing others and making space for others. And the more we do that and build trust in this public school community space, the better and more successful the whole society will be. And so I'm just really asking everybody to give grace, to understand this as a human-driven organization. We are human beings, and we're dealing with children. And that the more trust and the more love we give to the people who are nurturing our next generation, the better it will be. So I'm just really asking for people to really work hard on building that trust, and whatever it takes, if it's conversation, if it's talking with your neighbors, if it's just opening the door and being kind and working out those barriers, and really just bringing people in and stopping as much as you can. I know it's hard to have those conversations, especially around Christmas time, with Uncle Bob going off. But the more you can stand up for us and the marginalized people, the easier it'll be for all of us. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think on that note, we're going to end it. No, that's great though. Thanks, Teri. And to the audience, so I hope if you watch this, I hope you share it so that other people can actually hear and learn what SOGI is all about, get rid of some of the misconceptions that people have, and just have respect for another human being. If we all did that, we would have a beautiful world, don't you think? Anyway, everybody, thanks for watching. Take care and peace out.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.